What'd you guys think of the debate?
Oh, I think it was a big win for Team Biden, for sure.
Really?
Absolutely.
Well, how so?
Vice President, you know what? He came out firing. He wasn't shying back. He wasn't holding back. He addressed issues head on, and he made a case why he should be the next president of the United States.
To you, why should he be?
You know what? I think experience matters. I think his entire career he's fought for working class Americans. He had a major role in Obamacare getting passed. He's helped Americans get insured, whether it's health care. He's helped advance the issues on women's rights, on racial issues, on civil liberties. I think he's the man for the job. He understands the importance of climate change. He understands that it's a national security issue. He's been in the Situation Room making real-time policy decisions and military decisions with the President of the United States. No other candidate on that stage, or yesterday, can say that. He was involved in making sure terrorists and organizations...
You know Tulsi Gabbard served.
Absolutely, right. And Pete Buttigieg served too, which I think that's crucially important. And they definitely have a say in foreign policy, and they definitely have a say in what our military troops should do. But Biden was in that room when the decisions were being, when the green light was when the president had to say go.
You're aware he told Obama to bomb the compound rather than going with the surgical team?
Yeah, and you know what? And so was every major general in that room as well. And Obama had to make the decision. And you know, it turned out to be a great decision. But guess what? If he bombed the compound, the mission still would have been accomplished.
Now let me ask you, because you talked about fighting for working class people. You're not concerned he was for NAFTA, he's still for TPP. A lot of people in the Midwest were against Hillary Clinton because of TPP, NAFTA. He did the bankruptcy bill, a lot of things that didn't necessarily help working class people.
You know, I think we can spend all the time in the world talking about the past. Bottom line is he worked in the White House when our economy helped middle class people. And for anyone to say that he wasn't involved in those policy decisions and had an impact, I think they're wrong.
People don't just vote on his record as vice president, they're going to look at his entire record.
Right, you know what? That's true. They're going to look at his entire record. But I think his record, there's more positive in that record than there is harm. I think no matter what, he's the candidate who can bring people together. And you know, we don't talk about this enough. What we're really talking about, there's 20 candidates on that stage. And we're talking about, every poll says there's one candidate out of those 20 who can beat Donald Trump in the swing states like Michigan, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Florida. There's one person on that stage that's saying who can win.
Well, that's not true.
Is Donald Trump, or that person is Joe Biden.
That's not true.
To the polls I've seen, I believe that is
Every
correct.
poll has shown Bernie is beating Donald Trump as well. 25 out of 26.
You know, and if that's the case, every poll is also showing that Bernie's record, or not Bernie's record, I apologize, I didn't mean to say record, but Bernie is weaker now than he was in 16, and he wasn't able to win the nomination in 16.
I mean, he ran against one candidate versus 24. Obviously, he's not going to have as much as a...
Right, and we can talk about that all day long. Bernie's going to have his time fighting the issues with Warren, and I don't think that's really what we're talking about here. I think what we're really talking about is Biden, what Biden can do for our country. And I from what my understanding and my opinion, I really think he's the strongest candidate to take it to Trump. He has the experience to do so. He has the background, and I think he's the right person for the job, for sure.
Are you concerned about energy? I mean, most of his events have a small audience. Most people here left well before the event was over. It doesn't seem like there's enthusiasm. Like, I was at a Bernie thing last night for that debate, and it was just packed. Not a lot of people left before it was over. Here, it seemed like kind of more... here is just one place, but around the country, he has kind of small venues, not a lot of energy.
You know, that doesn't concern me because I was at his first rally that he had in Pittsburgh, and let me tell you, as far as you could see, it was crowded. It was packed. You know, the people I'm talking to, I'm out there having conversations with people, he has support. And the polls show that. He does have the support. I think in one room in Detroit, a mile away from the debate, thank you. That's not going to determine whether he has the energy. I think there's people out there who support him. The polls show it. He has, and everyone I'm talking to, he has the moderate vote, and I think, and that's huge.
Do you think him as a candidate should be doing fundraisers with Wall Street, where he told them, "Your standard of living will not change under my presidency"? Obviously, in 2016, people were revolting against the establishment, Wall Street. He's doing a lot of high-dollar fundraisers with Wall Street.
You know what? What we're really talking about here is we're talking about winning. When you look at Donald Trump's campaign finance numbers, he is blowing Democrats out of the water.
Hillary Clinton outspent Trump 2-1. She lost.
That's fine, but history tells us the person with the most money at the end of the campaign is someone who's going to be able to make it over that edge. And I know you know that.
Well, times are starting to change. I mean, Bernie, Warren, other candidates are competing with small dollar donations.
Yep, and I think Biden has just as much support from small dollar donators.
No, he doesn't.
There are a lot of people donating to his campaign, absolutely.
65 to 70% of his money is large donation.
You know, I think he has support definitely from a lot of small donors out there. A lot of Americans, the polls show that Americans want him as president. They show that he can beat Donald Trump, and they show that he's the right person for the job.
Last question. For you personally, if he became president, how does that change your life?
You know, I think it brings civility back to our country, and I think that affects every American, not just me, but everyone in this room here, everyone around the country. You know, it brings respect back to our country. It puts our place back on the world stage, and you know, it brings common sense back to our country. It shows that, you know, that there's multiple ways to do things, and not one way is right. But if you want to make an impact, you have to be able to work with others. You got to be able to have conversations with people. You have to build relationships, and I think that's something he's done his entire career. So I think if in my life, how that will affect me is that things will get accomplished. There's not going to, you know, will decrease divisiveness in our country, and I think that's a positive for everybody.
Do you think he's going to do anything to close the income inequality gap?
Absolutely.
How?
He's fought for working class Americans his entire life. I think it will continue. He's taken a strong stance on unions, which we know help working class Americans.
No, he hasn't, though. He voted for NAFTA, TPP, which decimated unions. He's taking money from Comcast lobbyists who destroy. Comcast is a union-busting company. He hasn't helped unions.
He was in Detroit, and he spoke to union leaders and had lunch and dinners with union leaders these past few days.
Speaking is not the same thing as doing something for them.
It's starting the conversation, though, and it's going to start.
But you know about NAFTA and TPP, right?
Yes. And I think we'll make progress. I think we'll make progress. I think there's certain candidates on the debate stage who are pushing the debate, which is great. We know that Bernie pushed Hillary farther left in 2016. I think that's something fair to say. And I think that conversation will help certain issues and help advance certain issues. But I do think it will help working class Americans the same way him and Obama did together for 8 years.
What's your name?
Nick Zander. Yep. I know my life and my family's life. My parents, if I have the time to tell you a little bit of story, my parent, auto worker, healthcare worker. We lost 3 houses growing up. It was a very difficult time under the George Bush administration. Housing market crash, jobs plummeted, especially in Detroit. Auto workers weren't doing well. Obama came into office with Vice President Joe Biden. Our lives increased drastically. Are we still trying to climb ourselves out of that hole? Absolutely. But life has improved for us drastically under those policies, and I think if we continue those policies, life will get better for a lot of Americans around the world, around the country.
I'm not trying to be condescending. It's kind of a contradiction because a lot of those auto jobs left, like you're talking about, because of NAFTA and the weak regulations for protecting American jobs, which he was for. So you're kind of talking about the pain your family went through, which I feel for.
Listen, we can talk about that all day long. At the end of the day, that administration helped bail out a strike.
That administration, we're talking about Biden. He's
a part of that administration, so therefore I believe it's fair to include him. The fact that people think that he was just, you know, a hallowed voice around those halls, absolutely not. He was involved in these decisions. Obama has said that. President Obama, excuse me. Vice President Joe Biden has said that he was involved in these decisions, and I think it's true. He had made the conscious decision to help the American workers, especially here in Detroit, when Congress said not to, when they didn't want to. They didn't want to bail out the auto unions. They did not want to help Americans in this state, in this city. And they said, you know, no, that's not what we're going to do that. We're going to take care of people who have taken care of us. And I think those policies that help do that will continue to go into effect and continue to help working Americans.
Thanks a lot for taking the time. I appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statusquo.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statusquo.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.
Status quo.